Najee Harris found a new home this offseason. He signed a one-year deal with the Chargers after spending the first 4 years of his career in Pittsburgh. It didn't take long for Harris to speak out about his old team. Listen up, fellas.
It was just a team where, we lost Ben, we lost a lot of the O-line. We just didn't know anything on offense, really. We didn't have identity. We had a young guy coming out quarterback. I was young, the team was young, and I really didn't have nobody to almost learn from the offensive side.
Hey, look who's here. My guy, two-time Super Bowl champ Damian Woody in the building. Damian, coming to you on Najee's comments. Are we calling him fair or foul?
Yeah, no, I think it's fair. And I think it's an indirect shot at Mike Tomlin, to be honest with you, because I think the greatest sin of Mike Tomlin recently is not finding that quarterback post Big Ben. I thought he always waited too long when Big Ben was at the end of his career, and that's really led to what's been going on with the Pittsburgh Steelers. I always said that when you talk about Pittsburgh, there's nothing worse than being in the middle. Either you need to be bad so you have an opportunity to go get a high-end quarterback, or be at the top of the game. And so when you don't have a quarterback, you don't have an identity offensively. And so for a young guy coming in, you're kind of looking to, okay, who can I go to as a resource to see how this thing is done? He talked about, the guys on the defensive side, because that's primarily been the idea of the Pittsburgh Steelers over the years. But as a running back, you want to be able to look on your side of the ball, see, okay, how do we go about doing things? If I have questions about what we're doing schematically on this side of the ball, who do I look to?
Yeah.
They didn't have anybody.
Yeah.
You're not going to look to the wide receivers, the one position group that's really been kind of a problem from a diva perspective on that side of the ball with the Pittsburgh Steelers. So I think indirectly he was talking about Mike Tomlin.
Well, to me, it doesn't matter whether he was talking about Mike Tomlin or not. I'm not so sure about Woody, but I will say this to you. I had absolutely no problem with his comments, and neither should anyone else, because of the climate of the National Football League. Saquon Barkley's situation notwithstanding. Saquon Barkley is a rarity. He's an aberration. He's an anomaly. It's not normal. Where you go to a team, they take care of you. They show you the respect that you warrant. And then after that, you go out on the field and you perform at an elite level, and they say, here's the bag, because you deserve it, as opposed to simply holding something against you no matter what your level of production is because of the position you play and your birth certificate. This is what they do in the National Football League for the most part. You turn 30, for example, you're done as a running back. They don't even care how you look. They just say you're done. Najee Harris is 27 years of age. He's had 4 years in the National Football League. He's run for over 1,000 yards every single season. And over the last 2 years, he's averaged at least 4 yards a carry. Those are respectable. Now, I know he was expected to be a star, and he's ended up being just an average player. But we have to respect the fact of what he was saying when he talked about the climate and the conditions and circumstances under which he was working. You haven't had a quarterback since Ben Roethlisberger. And even the last 2 years of Ben Roethlisberger's career, people could easily say he should have retired. He was a shell of himself and Big Ben and what we came to know and love and will ultimately celebrate when he enters the Hall of Fame. The fact of the matter is, when you looked at the Pittsburgh Steelers, the Mason Rudolphs, Kenny Pickett's, Mitchell Trubisky's of the world, for crying out loud. Then you go out and you get Justin Fields and Russell Wilson. Justin Fields, who's on the come up but isn't there yet, and a Russell Wilson who most people believe has passed his prime. This is what Najee Harris has had to work with. So if you're opposing defense, you know this better than me, Woody. You stack in the line of scrimmage. You're not expecting the Steelers to be a big-time bona fide threat of throwing the football. So you can't free up stuff for your running back the way that the team could. He's going to the Chargers. That ain't an accident, because you got Justin Herbert throwing that damn football. You know that brother's going to throw. He's the franchise, okay? And they want him to throw the football. That's going to give Najee Harris opportunities, just like if he had gone to Buffalo, just like if he had gone to Baltimore or Kansas City. The fact is, he was in Pittsburgh, and because of the situation that existed in Pittsburgh, it put him in a trying situation. I have no problem with him coming to his own defense and explaining himself that way. He did nothing wrong.
All right. Proven they believe in Deebo Samuel. Not only did they jump at the chance to trade him earlier this offseason, they also guaranteed the final year of his contract and added another $3 million in incentives. Deebo is not taking their faith in him for granted. Listen up, y'all.
They put this much trust in me to do the things they did for us, my contract. Like, I can't come in here and let them down. They can motivated Deebo. We're going to get a dog out here. I'm ready to come in here and work. I think these young legs still moving. His body's still working pretty well.
All right, D. Wood, how many teams do you have ahead of Washington in the NFC?
I can name 3 right now. Philly, I think the Philadelphia Eagles, the Los Angeles Rams,
Okay.
and the Detroit Lions. I think even with the mass exodus of all these assistant coaches with the Detroit Lions, I still believe in Dan Campbell. Their roster is still elite. And remember, last year, at the end of the year, they were absolutely decimated on defense. They're going to get a lot of those guys back. Yeah. So for me, it's those 3 teams.
And Philly stayed intact, and you could argue that the Rams got even better.
That's right.
Stephen A.?
I don't disagree with you, Woody, but let's not throw shade on the Washington Commanders, all right? You picked up Laramie Tunsil, 5-time Pro Bowl tackle, along with Deebo Samuels, who still got some game left in him. I wouldn't count out Deebo by any stretch of the imagination, particularly considering McLaurin is there and you got a dual threat at the quarterback spot and Daniels. That's number 1. Number 2, we also have to understand that when you say 3 teams are better than them, right? Potentially better than them. We just started talking about the Los Angeles Rams in that light because of how they came on and, most importantly, how they performed in the playoffs against Philadelphia. That was the biggest challenge the Philadelphia Eagles had. But we also have to mention those inclement weather conditions, too, and how that could impede people as well. It was a snowstorm when they were playing against the Philadelphia Eagles. That wasn't the case against the Commanders. That wasn't the case in the Super Bowl as well. So we got to take that into consideration. And last but not least, you're not going to have to play all 3 of those teams. If you got Philly, Detroit, and L.A., if you're the Commanders, you might have to play 2. In most instances, it might only be 1. They win the NFC Championship game last year. I'm not counting Daniels out by any stretch of the imagination. I got Philly, Detroit, L.A. I get you. But it's not like they can't beat Detroit. They did in the playoffs. And it's not like they can't beat the Rams either. So I'd say they're a top 4 team in the NFC. It's interesting.
But I don't think we can go by last year's playoffs, Stephen A., just because there
13 injured.
So many injuries.
13 injured, 13 guys injured on the defensive side of the ball for Detroit. I know.
Yeah.
To, pick their brain off of, and it was just defensive guys. So I'll go to the defensive guys to talk to them, but, it wouldn't be too much they could tell me about an offensive thing. You know what I mean? Through my years, I learned a lot that, only I learned firsthand. And I feel like here, we got a lot of veterans that I could learn even more stuff from. It was an interesting year there. I'll just say that.
All right. So generally speaking, he was talking about how there wasn't much in place on the offensive side that he could learn as a young player. Why are you making that face?
You ungrateful dude. Listen, how fortunate is it for you to be in the playoffs every year of your career? That doesn't just happen. And when he leaves, sometimes you realize how good you had it. Now, he's going to a place that maybe have their future quarterback, but it's going to be the similar philosophy as, the Chargers are trying to build their team. We're bringing over Mekhi Becton to be a team that's going to base on the run game and not really throw a lot, similar and play great defense. That's how Harbaugh builds his team, similar to how Mike Tomlin built his team.
I understand. Yeah. But I think there's been a lot of question about the offensive coaching in Pittsburgh. Matt Canada was the offensive coordinator for a lot of the time. That he's talking about the quarterback play, all that kind of stuff. Just because maybe he shouldn't say it doesn't mean he isn't right.
I think he was taking a shot at Mike Tomlin without calling out his name.
Right.
When you're talking about, the makeup of the offense, who as a young guy, who do you go seek out? Doesn't that directly go back to the head coach? Ultimately, the head coach is, partly responsible for the personnel that's on the team. And so that, to me, I heard that, I'm like, okay, to me, that's a shot at Mike Tomlin.
Well, the biggest indictment on Mike Tomlin and why they find themselves in this situation is the fact that they decided to draft Kenny Pickett. And, it wasn't a draft that they needed a quarterback, and they waited too long, much like the Giants, to move away from a franchise quarterback in Ben Roethlisberger, and they didn't prepare for his exit. So the Kenny Pickett pick is really what that has him behind the 8 ball. Kenny Pickett will be in his 4th season this year. He's already on his 3rd football team now that he's with the Cleveland Browns. When you miss at the quarterback position, it sets you back, especially in that division that has Joe Burrow and Lamar Jackson.
Jeremy, how about what are your thoughts here?
This is why teams that have a quarterback who's in the top half of the league pay them $50, $60 million, whatever they want, because life in the middle is rough. The Pittsburgh Steelers have experienced that since Ben Roethlisberger left. They can't find a solution, but my sense is they will go heavy on the draft. They will draft a quarterback high, if not this year.